just a moment though. 241 days. It's definitely a long time to keep hope alive. I mean, you do know that it must be traumatic for the parents of those girls. It must be, harrowing that every single day. And then sometimes it's human nature that, when you go through that kind of, trauma, you just want it to end at some point. And maybe in your mind, possibly to give yourself peace, you say, it's enough. If they will come back, they will come back. If they won't come back, I need to move on. Otherwise, you won't live life, as it were. How has it been keeping hope alive? And do you think it's in our best interest to do this?
I think it's in our best interest to not close the book until the book closes. And, you can't say there is closure on these girls. The fact that these girls have not been rescued, the fact that there has not been any kind of substantial empirical evidence as to what it is exactly that happened to these girls. How could our national intelligence fail us so woefully that we don't know? We really don't know. If you looked at, we mapped the narratives around the matter of these girls, and we called it a narrative of falsehood, because none of it came together in a direction of truth and veracity. And when you think of that, you realize that for us to say, it's 241 days, we've all tried, let's move on. What kind of a society does that? I was recently in London, and one of the persons that spoke to me said he still has difficulties understanding how some people actually think it's okay to move on the matter of the girls. He said, your nation must not move on. And he said, if it happened in the UK, there's no way anybody is going to be moving on until there is closure. There has to be closure. So, Malpe, I understand the question, but the truth is, when I speak to some of the parents that I am in touch with, they say to me that for as long as there are people who will not forget their daughters, they still hope that their daughters will be rescued. Now, what do you say to that?
You've met some of the girls that escaped. What's the narrative? What's their narrative? How are they coping after their escape? What's it been like?
There's one that stays permanently with me. She said in fact, she was saying it to Malala when Malala was visiting, and we had this, interaction with them. And she said, I feel guilty every day. And why do you feel guilty every day? I feel guilty that I escaped without my best friend. Because every time I go to visit her parents, her mother cries and says to me, why didn't you come back with your sister? You should have taken her hands and you should have run away with her. And then she said to us that she tried, but that the girl, her friend, said she was too scared to escape. But that she escaped because she said, if I tried to run and they got me, they would kill me. If they carried me away, they would kill me. So the thought of going with them was more difficult for me than the thought of trying to escape and, being killed. So I decided to not stay with my friend, and I escaped. And this young woman, in that conversation, revealed a state of trauma where even though she escaped, she still isn't free. And so for many of these young women, life is not the same. And unfortunately, we are not a society that has completely understood how all of these things work together against the society. The fact is, we may pretend that, this is not a big deal. It actually is a big deal. That 219 young women who answered our call to go get education in the Northeast Zone that I know very well the educational situation of the Northeast Zone by virtue of my time as a Minister of Education. The Northeast Zone, nationally, is the least educated or education inclined in the country. It is even worse amongst the girl children. For every 3 boys in school, you have 1 girl in school. We worked on the matter of girl child education with a focus on the Northeast Zone. And then 276 of them got abducted. 57 of them escaped, not by virtue of any rescue, but on their own. 219 are still in the den of terrorists. And we think that it doesn't matter for a nation that should look at human capital as the epicenter of its development opportunities, as the basis for our economic development strategy. Isn't it clear that our lives in the oil wells of the Niger Delta has not produced much, neither for the Niger Deltans nor for the rest of the country? That it is our human capital that we should worry about. So if we sent the signal that education does not matter, what are we doing? 50% of our population are women.
Well, that will definitely take us into the leadership question, but very quickly on this Chibok girls matter, what should we all be doing now so that we don't...
What we should be doing, Suleiman, is preventing people who want us to move on from moving on. We can move on.
How do you feel, sorry Marco, how do you feel when sometimes talks about people being monetized or being influenced or being used on the same campaign?
There's nothing to defend. You know, Suleiman, there's nothing to defend. Are you going to, is somebody going to pay me or the others who have continued to stand? By the way, God bless these Nigerians from different religion, different ethnic groups, not knowing one another. A few, knew one themselves before, but most of the people found themselves at the Unity Fountain. God bless them, because they continue to stand every day. Every day, they are at the Unity Fountain, being a voice for the Chibok girls. God bless the ones in Lagos, the ones in Oshogbo, the ones in Ibadan. They continue to stand for these girls. Now, if you even decided to reduce yourself to the lowliest common denominator, who could ever imagine that a matter of empathy, a matter of connection to the bond of shared humanity would occasion such silly talk of monetization? Monetization for what? For 219 girls? Or some politics for what? How does politics and the lives of 219 human beings even come together? It's only in the mindset of those who really, really would need some serious, what I call serious deliverance of the mind. There is no such thing. So I never bother myself with that, because people who want to make these girls victims all over find all kinds of extraneous issues to pull up. And they've become masters and mistresses of distraction. And so they want to basically make, almost like make you so tired so that you say enough. I've had instances where some people would say to me, you've done your best about these girls. The kind of insults that you have received, the kind of attacks that you've received, it's too much, Oby. So you've done enough for these girls. And one of the things I say to them is, integrity is about making a vow and keeping it. I vowed, alongside with a lot of others, that our voice will not be silenced until these girls are rescued. That is why we're never going to give up on the Chibok girls.
Yesterday, we spoke with Benetta Diop. She led a delegation from the African Union. Did that give you confidence? How did that help, or how does that help your cause? Do you have any confidence that their intervention might be able to help bring them back.
Bineta is a woman who has worked all across the continent and in fact the world on the matter of girl-child education. And she understands these issues. The rest of the world hasn't moved on. Actually, the rest of the world continues to look at Nigeria and in utter shock that every other thing seems to be important to us right now, rather than the matter of rescuing these girls. These girls, we've not been told, are dead. They are alive somewhere. Frankly speaking, there is a presence of mind that is needed on the matter of these girls. If these girls were made the most important priority for our nation in the early days of the abduction, these girls would have been rescued. That, for me, is a source of great pain.